Welcome back. You are watching The Fix with me, Karima Brown. I'm in conversation with the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Shamila Batohi. Thank you so much again for making time. We were talking before the break about this double step that you have to do in a way. You have to take the public into their confidence because, let's face it, patients are running out. The President said there is a desire in the country for us to see justice, for impunity to end. But on the other hand, you have a broken institution, you have people still inside that organization that is resisting the changes. Take us through what the most difficult thing was for you to do when you came back, when you had to take your team through having to accept that the institution was in fact compromised.
I think, you know, just trying to not get involved in the factionalism. For me, because I was away for the past 10 years, I think it was a blessing because I came, you know, relatively untainted with regard to what was going on in the NPA. And what has been the most difficult thing, I think, is to try to understand who I can trust in the organization. And that is, you know, I'm beginning to get an understanding of some of it, but not completely.
So if you were to hazard an answer, and I know this is a tough one because you have to lead this institution, but can you trust all your provincial heads to accept that you and they are on the same page to restore the trust and the accountability and the integrity of the NPA? Are you happy with all your provincial heads as it stands?
I think what I can say is that overtly I get the sense that, you know, that people are realize that there's a new vision in the NPA. And that,
are they playing ball? Are they doing their jobs?
Well, you know, on the face of it, and that is for me at the moment important at the moment, is that people are not overtly subverting, and that the new vision of an independent, professional, accountable and credible NPA is something that people are moving along with.
Shamila, that is such an important thing that you have said, that it's an independent organization, that it shouldn't be politicized. Let's take a listen to President Ramaphosa, who addressed members of the media last week on why it's important for politicians to stay out of who you prosecute and why you prosecute them.
As people are urging now that, you know, you must take action, you must prosecute and all that, and I say, the day a president does that, it is time to run for the hills, because it basically means that the president acts as judge, executioner, and everything else, and our constitution does not prescribe that.
Now, that is very clear, and of course nobody can disagree with the President, Shamila, but here's the thing. Can I ask you directly, since you've been in your job, has any politician, including the President, come to you and told you what to do?
And I can categorically answer no. When I was first appointed, I had a meeting with the President, and I said to him, Mr. President, I know what the Constitution says, that there must be no influence, the NPA must act without fear, favor, or prejudice. It's become cliched in a way. But I said to him, you, Mr. President, but we know what has happened in recent times. And sitting across from me, I would like you to look at me and give me your word that there will be no interference in the work of the NPA. And he unhesitatingly, and I'm talking about this is over a year ago, he unhesitatingly said, I will not interfere in the work of the NPA. And I can say, you know, that the President has never even hinted or suggested to me that if you did this, if you went, and even the minister, the new minister,
the Justice Minister,
the Justice Minister, has never, they have been extremely supportive. We've got, you know, now we've had an additional budget. The minister's been very supportive also with the UAE, sorry, not just that, but the mutual legal assistance issues. So, you know, I am just so grateful because given where the country is, and given that we are still on a tightrope, it could have been so easy for the president or any member of the executive, the minister, to hint at something, not even a hint. And that is what I find so refreshing in terms of allowing the NPA to do its work without any interference.
So if I'm to summarize from what you've said, you've got no politician breathing down your neck. You do have people inside your organization that are perhaps not overtly but covertly resisting implementing the change and the cleanup. And then you've got very technical cases that involves discussions with other countries to come. Those are constraints, but they are also freedoms in some way. So given that, what is it that you can do and have done so far that gives South Africans hope that those who have stolen from the public purse will, in fact, face their day in court and, if found guilty, go to jail?
Karima, we need to, the first thing we need to do, and that is what I realized when I came into the NPA, is that with a good team, we need to rebuild our institutions, strengthen the institutions. And the President has recently said, we need to build a capable state. If you do not have capable institutions, we are not going to be able to address the challenges that face us. So what large part of the year has been focusing on how do we build capacity, how do we actually try to strengthen not just the NPA, but influence the entire justice system, right from police, SAPs. We know the Hawks have been seriously undermined and compromised. So working, firstly, internal challenges. Firstly was the budget, which we succeeded in getting. The second thing is we are looking at skills and capacity. So that's a huge part of what we are doing. And so internally, we are looking at the independent, professional, accountable, credible institution. We have a roadmap in terms of in 5 years' time, or 6 or whatever it is, when I leave this institution, that is what the NPA must look like, and we have a roadmap for that. Dealing with the cases, there has been a lot of meetings and collaborations with entities like the Special Investigation Unit, Advocate Motibi, with Mr. Ed Kieswetter, the Commissioner of SARS, with General Labia, the head of the Hawks, with Toli, Advocate Kanyile, who's the head of the Financial Intelligence Center. And what I can say is that the good thing is that I know that all of these people want to reclaim the state from capture. We are all on the same page. And so the collaboration between these entities has been extremely weakened entities as they are, but has been extremely good. We had an anti-corruption strategy meeting in the NPA in October last year. This is outside of the directorate, which I'll come to, which is a lot of good things happening there, where I said to the DPPs in the divisions, come up with 5 cases that will be impactful and that will show the country that we're moving in the right direction.
So that's your internal process. But let's talk about how the NPA interfaces with other efforts to bring the culture of impunity to an end. One, of course, is the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. Now, the big thing is that the Zondo Commission of Inquiry's life has been extended. But there has been a case made for the fact that what we can do on certain cases at the Zondo Commission, where the evidence is clear, that you can have what people call an interim report, like on the case of Estina, and you can proceed. And people use the Nugent Commission of Inquiry as an example of how you can actually almost draw a line under certain investigations, and you can then proceed with either criminal or civil, processes that complements the work of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. Why haven't you done that yet?
Well, we would be so grateful for interim reports from the Zondo Commission.
So are you suggesting that it is the Zondo Commission that is not ready with the interim report? Do you feel, on the strength of what has come out on the Estina Dairy case, for example, that you have enough to get an interim report so that you can prepare possible indictments for people that need to answer in a court of law?
Look, that's not an assessment I can make. That's for Judge Zondo and his team to decide to do. But we think it would assist greatly with investigations if it is done. But you talked about collaboration. We've been speaking a lot with the Zondo Commission, and the collaboration is much better than it was. But there were sticking points there as well. But internationally, we've been collaborating. I mean, Advocate Cronje and I were in Den Haag just a couple of weeks ago, and there were 5 countries that were sitting around a table dealing. The way state capture worked is that you had officials in government and you had multinationals that were working together. And we want to make sure that both the officials and the multinationals are held to account. I'm not going to say which 5 countries because I don't want to give away too much, but 5 countries, probably more than 20 people with prosecutors sitting around the table saying, how can we deal with this matter so that the multinationals, so each one is dealing with different parts of this puzzle.
But what if I put it to you, Shamila, that people are cognizant of your constraints, but you need to demonstrate that you have the ability to actually hold person A accountable. So, for example, we have a current case of a 42-year-old man who's appearing in the courts in the Free State in connection with the theft of a Pierre-Neuf painting valued at 8 million. We know that the person was in the employ of a former Premier of the Free State, Ace Magashule. We know that certain members of the executive there in that province are going to be subpoenaed. People are saying you're going for small fry. There's been so much evidence coming out at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry implicating someone like Ace Magashule. From where you're sitting, does Ace Magashule have a case to answer?
Well, let me say, we don't target people. I want to make that very clear. We want to prosecute those most responsible. Where the evidence takes us, we will go, irrespective of who is at the end of that line. And so, if there's sufficient evidence against anyone, we will proceed. And the fact that we've proceeded against these people, it means that is where the evidence has taken us. And so, you know...
So where's the evidence taken you on Bosasa, for example?
I don't want to talk. As I said to you, there's certain things that I can't speak about in terms of where the evidence is taking us. But I want to make it very clear. We do not target individuals. We follow the evidence. We are aware of what the case theory is.
But, you know, in as much as that is true, and in as much as you need to ensure that you are not challenged for vexatiously prosecuting individuals, it is not entities that commit crimes. It is actually individuals. When you serve an indictment, you serve it on an individual.
Absolutely.
So in the case of Mr. Magashule, for example, in the case of Bosasa, very senior members of the governing party has been mentioned. In the case of VBS, you've had a situation where the investigators actually have mirror images of data that is forensically tested. Why are we not having people serve with indictments in, for example, the VBS case?
Let me explain something first before I deal with that particular case. And that is what, and this is not meant to be, you know, a benchmark. Internationally, in order to prosecute big corruption cases, it takes between 6 and 9 years. That is not what we're aiming for.
Okay.
And the country,
well, that's comforting.
That that's not a benchmark we would like to be judged by. We know we don't have that much time. But to understand that in order to get these cases together, it does take time. And the worst thing that can happen to us is because of pressure, we take a half-baked case to court and we fail.
Absolutely.
That will be worse than actually waiting a while to ensure that your case is watertight and that you can, and I can assure the public that there is a lot going on in this space. And my tendency is to under-promise and over-deliver. And so I know patience is wearing thin, but, you know, the regiment server was seized in December last year. We're still trying to procure the service provider to actually be able to analyze the information that's...
But surely that is unacceptable.
It is totally unacceptable. The processes in government are just driving us to take our hair. In fact, I was texting this morning the DG of Treasury. You know, if you look at my communications this morning about the procurement of this, basically saying, what do we need to do to make this happen?
Absolutely. So, hold that thought. It is International Women's Day. And when we come back, we are going to be talking at the way in which the criminal justice system often fails women and children. Don't go anywhere.